Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, esteemed Director General and Regional Director of WHO, distinguished representatives and guests, welcome back. We are now ready to open the discussion on issues raised by the Director General and by regional directors in their addresses. Before I open the general debate, which will give delegates the opportunity to make statements on both presentations, but also on topics not covered elsewhere in the program, let me first explain to you how we will organize our discussion rounds during this virtual session of the Regional Committee. To manage the time during this plenary session, the Secretariat invited you to indicate in advance on which agenda item you wish to intervene. Based on this information, a pre-established speakers list was developed. This list also includes member states that submitted a pre-recorded video statement. We will communicate this list on the Zoom chat so that delegates can get ready. There is no need for you to raise your hand in the Zoom. After we have finished the list, I will check which other delegates who didn't intervene yet would still like to take the floor to assess if this intervention can still be taken on board. Next, I will invite the international partners that informed us of their wish to speak. Finally, we will invite the non-state actors provided by our non-state actors in official relations and accredited to attend the regional committee, who have prepared joint statements to deliver them on Wednesday afternoon. Before you start to speak, please make sure to unmute yourself. You are also kindly invited to activate your video when taking the floor unless you have connectivity problems. Let me also ask for you kind cooperation to please observe the time limits that have been agreed in the special rules and procedures: 3 minutes for individual interventions and 5 minutes for regional of-group statements. Only in this way we will be able to respect our daily working hours and conclude our agenda in time. In case we run over time in session today, I may have to close the speakers list earlier or ask you to wrap up your intervention. I apologize for this in advance. Unfortunately, the virtual format does not allow too much flexibility. Let me also remind you that you can send your full statements to the Secretariat for posting on the RC71 website. Also, on behalf of delegates connected from different time zones, I ask for your indulgence and thank you for your understanding. Now I'm going to follow the agenda, item 2, and I give now the floor to the delegate of Slovenia, to be followed by Turkmenistan and Turkey. The floor is yours, the Slovenia delegate.
Thank you very much. Honorable Chair, Director General, Regional Director, Excellencies, colleagues. I have the honor of speaking on behalf of the European Union and its member states. The candidate countries, the Republic of North Macedonia, Montenegro and Albania, the Republic of Moldova, Armenia and Georgia align themselves with this statement. Last and this year have made it clear that we need a strong, efficient and independent WHO as the leading agency in global health in normal times and emergencies for normative guidance to the member states, the UN system and partners. We need WHO's unbiased and reliable guidance based on evidence and best available knowledge as a global public good for the promotion and protection of the health and well-being of our populations, for disease prevention and for the strengthening of our health systems. We acknowledge the achievements of the WHO at global level in leading the response to the pandemic and in developing solutions for new global challenges. We also recognize the active role of the regional office in providing region-specific support to our 53 member states. We welcome the RD's approach in his intervention to focus on future work and thank him for his first report on the implementation of the European Programme of Work, congratulate him, the regional office, and the WHO personnel for their expertise, commitment, and achievements. Many important initiatives to strengthen WHO and our emergency preparedness and response capacities are currently on the way, including the 2 historic working groups on WHO strengthening and sustainable financing. We agree with DG about the importance of avoiding the creation of new structures that would increase the fragmentation of the international health architecture and potentially weaken WHO. We need to be better prepared for health threats by building more resilient health systems and ensuring a whole of government and whole of society response, guaranteeing equitable access to countermeasures such as vaccines, data, and sample sharing, health technologies, access for health emergency workforce, and rapid assistance to outbreak areas, and establishing public health norms for travel purposes. The EU and its member states believe that continued work to fully implement the IHR is the first step to be taken. Furthermore, we acknowledge that member states need to further address the gaps through a new international legal instrument, serving as an effective vehicle for a human rights-based, transparent, equitable, intersectoral, whole government and one health approach for dealing rapidly and effectively with health emergencies. Excellencies, European companies and countries have had a major role in the development, financing, and distribution of vaccines, including essential support to COVAX and ACT. The EU and its member states are dedicated to vaccine equity, and we have recently pledged an additional 200 million doses on top of our previous commitments. Since science needs to lead the way, dealing more effectively with future pathogens-derived threats will require close and transparent collaboration in assessing the origins of those pathogens. Excellencies, in order to achieve and maintain robust health systems, an empowered and motivated workforce, strong primary health systems services, digital innovation to improve the delivery of services, and access to effective medicines, including for non-communicable diseases, are indispensable assets. Decision makers and people need to understand that health expenditure are not lost resources, but a priority investment in our future and precondition for the well-being and productivity of any society. The EU and its member states are looking forward to upcoming discussion during the RC and call upon all member states to continue working for a more equitable, safer, and healthier world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I now give the floor to Turkmenistan, followed by Turkey and Finland.
Уважаемый директор Европейского регионального бюро ВОЗ доктор Ханс Клюге, уважаемые участники 71-й сессии Европейского регионального комитета, уважаемые дамы и господа, прежде всего выражаю искреннюю благодарность вам, доктор Ханс Клюге, за содержательный доклад, посвященный деятельности ВОЗ в странах Европейского региона и проектам резолюции, которые вынесены на обсуждение. В настоящее время в условиях вызванного COVID-19 глобального кризиса в области здравоохранения и экономики Наши ожидания от модели деятельности ВОЗ во многом изменились. Влияние пандемии COVID-19, с одной стороны, выявило слабые стороны систем здравоохранения, с другой стороны, дала толчок активному внедрению инновационных технологий и эффективному использованию данных сектора здравоохранения. С момента объявления пандемии проводится масштабная разъяснительная работа по соблюдению профилактических мер. Проводится постоянный мониторинг работы учреждений здравоохранения, всех задействованных в профилактических мероприятиях, структур и населения, что позволяет сохранять стабильную ситуацию. Уважаемый доктор Ханс Клюге, пользуясь возможностью, хотел бы выразить вам благодарность за консолидирующее лидерство в вопросах, связанных с противодействием пандемии COVID-19, о вашем лице Европейскому региональному бюро, страновому офису ВОЗ в Туркменистане, который с первых дней начала развития пандемии и по сегодняшний день продолжает оказывать поддержку в организации регулярных встреч с обменом информацией и опытом других стран. Продолжается работа в рамках реализации совместного проекта ВОЗ и Европейского Союза для стран Центральной Азии по ответным мерам на кризис COVID-19. Пандемия COVID-19 нанесла огромный урон людям, семьям, сообществам и странам по всему миру, в связи с чем, основываясь на принципах солидарности, Европейской программы работы на 2020-2025 годы, совместные действия для улучшения здоровья жителей Европы и ее флагманской инициативы расширения прав и возможностей граждан при помощи цифрового здравоохранения Туркменистан полностью поддерживает принятие резолюции, а также выражает уверенность в лидирующей роли Европейского регионального бюро ВОЗ в укреплении и расширении его полномочий в руководстве, координации и поддержке усиления национального потенциала по обеспечению универсального охвата услугами здравоохранения, реагирование на чрезвычайные ситуации в области здравоохранения, обеспечению здорового образа жизни и содействию благополучия для всех жителей Европейского региона. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Turkey, followed up by Finland and Israel.
Sayın Genel Direktör, Sayın Bölge Direktörü, kıymetli katılımcılar. Öncelikle Bölge Komitesi vesilesiyle
Distinguished Director General, distinguished regional director, esteemed participants, before I begin, allow me to express how glad I am to be meeting you today on the occasion of this regional committee. We are going through a period where we are as busy as the previous year. These are also difficult times as we are experiencing different phases of the pandemic. For this reason, I am of the opinion that this meeting is a great opportunity for discussing policy options at the highest level. As can we all agree, the pandemic response has been the focus of healthcare for the last 2 years. It is also quite certain that COVID-19 will continue to shape each and every sector in the coming period and will have long-term impacts. The pandemic is changing not only the perspective on health, but also the expectations from WHO, the leader of global health. The expectations of countries and individuals from WHO push the organization into repositioning itself. Such a repositioning will inevitably have regional repercussions. In this sense, I'm fully confident that WHO Europe will act as a leader in this process, as it is already a driving force. Esteemed participants, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that global health security is not possible even only one country has a fragile health system. Global health security is a chain, and a single weakness in one ring jeopardizes the entire system. It is of critical importance to effectively coordinate the national steps countries will take in a variety of issues, particularly in pandemic preparedness and response through regional structures. In this sense, I believe that more effective and innovative collaboration models that WHO Europe will develop will benefit every country in the region and WHO itself. I appreciate the regional consultations kicked off in line with the target of providing the support tailored to the needs of countries, which is the backbone of the European Work Programme, which we adopted last year. I also welcome the fact that Turkey was designated a pilot country. As a country, we have always advocated for further strengthening of WHO. In this sense, we are ready to engage in any kind of cooperation. The recent disasters caused by both COVID-19 and climate change clearly demonstrate the importance of building up national and regional capacities to prepare for and respond to emergencies. The greater involvement of regional partnerships in the health security system and its benefits will serve as an important leverage on our way to a safer world. For this reason, I believe that the GDO, which is hosted by Turkey and has kicked off its activities last year, will make a significant contribution to capacity building not only in the countries of the region but also on a global scale. In this sense, I also find Mr. Regional Director's attempts to build partnerships that go beyond the region very valuable. Esteemed participants, Turkey always remains ready in terms of healthcare provision, health infrastructure, and health workforce due to the dynamic geography it is located in and past experiences. This is a product of a long-term tradition of health policies, not a reflex. Thanks to the advantages provided by the national pandemic preparedness plans developed with this approach, we have made significant gains in the process. Flexible and quickly adaptable preparedness plans, a holistic responsibility, and our capacity have contributed greatly to the management of the pandemic. As I conclude my remarks, I believe that the 71st Regional Committee will produce important outcomes for our region and for the rest of the world. I wish everyone a fruitful meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to Finland, followed by Israel and Armenia.
Honorable President, Director General, Regional Director, delegates. Finland aligns herself with the statement of the European Union and its member states. Health security is a matter of public health as well as societal and economic stability and prosperity. Preparedness is rooted in responsible action by the government, trust and the cooperation across the society, and strong community engagement. The core of a sustainable preparedness at all levels includes national investments in strong and resilient health systems, including primary healthcare and multi-sectoral One Health cooperation. Integration of IHR implementation in public health functions and health systems, sustainable preparedness, financing, data sharing, and the medical countermeasures are some of the key issues. We must address the risk of increasing health inequities, especially when it comes to vulnerable groups. Maintaining and strengthening the promotion of health and well-being is essential. There is a critical need to address the depth on NCD prevention, diagnostics, and the treatment. Mental health is a growing concern. We thank the Secretariat for raising this issue in the context of an economy of well-being. When well-being and the economic concerns are balanced in political decision-making, investments in health can benefit the whole of society. We must build on our strong tradition of prioritizing health equity and a health in all policies approach. Preparedness and resilience enhance sustainable development. It is time to recognize the political and societal significance of health and well-being. We look forward to the valuable insights that the Pan-European Commission will give us in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Israel will have the floor, followed by Armenia and Estonia. Please, is there a technical problem? There seems to be a technical problem. Yes. So we will come back at you at a later stage. So I'll give the floor to Armenia, followed
Director
by
General,
Estonia.
Regional Director, Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates. It's a pleasure to address the virtual session of WHO Regional Committee for Europe. The past 2 years were full of challenges that significantly increased the burden on the health systems around the globe. In such uneasy times, cooperation with our partners helped us push forward. The COVID-19 proved that pandemics of such magnitude do not respect borders and require joint action to counter and overcome them. I want to thank the World Health Organization for the leadership, continuous support, and effective coordination of global action in this respect. The input of the organization in combining the experiences of member states and a devising comprehensive approach to tackling new challenges is enormous. The COVID-19 pandemic proved once again that health should be a key priority for all governments, and our efforts should be aimed at strengthening healthcare systems, public health protection, and ensuring fair, equitable, and sustainable development. Over many years, the World Health Organization proved that without joint efforts, it would not be possible to overcome existing difficulties and achieve better health for all. Armenia, as a member state, reaffirms its strong commitment to work closely with the WHO Regional Office for Europe and partner countries aimed at advancement of the health agenda. Excellencies, Armenia is convinced that only through joint efforts will be able to tackle the existing challenges. First of all, COVID-19 pandemic, but also make tangible progress on 2030 agenda, its third goal. Together, we can achieve significant improvement globally, including a fair access to health for all.
Thank you. I'm calling again Israel. If Israel is ready to have the floor. They're on Zoom. Yep. Is Israel ready? Yes. Yes. Please, the floor is yours. I see that Israel is not ready to take the floor, so I move on. I move on with the delegates from Estonia. You have.
Honorable Chair, distinguished Director General, Regional Director, Excellencies. I would like to thank the Director General and the Regional Director for their insightful reports and for sharing their views on the way forward. Estonia aligns itself with the statement made on behalf of the European Union and its member states. While we continue to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, there are important tasks ahead of us to strengthen the global architecture for the pandemic preparedness and at the same time to ensure the core capacities at the national level. We cannot hide away from the decisions, even on issues where finding common ground might not be easy. We need to face the obvious. A global accord is needed on the sustainable funding of pandemic preparedness and response at the global level, including funding of the WHO core functions. We welcome the discussions in the working groups on WHO strengthening and on sustainable financing, and would like to express our sincere appreciation to the facilitators of those groups. When considering the need for new international legal instruments, it is important to address areas that are not covered by the international health regulations or other existing mechanisms. The potential new treaty could reinforce the implementation of the existing instruments in a cross-sectoral and whole-of-government approach. We have seen with the COVID-19 that the health crisis quickly turned into a vast socio-economic crisis. I welcome the excellent report of the Pan-European Commission on Health and Sustainable Development, exemplifying the One Health approach for prevention. At the same time, increasing investment to build strong and resilient health systems underpinned by strong primary health care is inevitable for adequate preparedness and response capacity and to address inequalities. Health professionals are the most valuable resource in our health systems. In Estonia, as in many other countries, we are faced with the challenge of scarcity of human resources in healthcare. Safeguarding an empowered and motivated workforce requires careful planning and innovative approaches in the organization of work. We welcome the focus of the regional office on this important topic and appreciate the efforts to support countries in developing and implementing their human resource strategies. Digital innovations are an essential tool in achieving resilient health systems. The flagship initiative on digital innovation can serve to support countries in the digital transformation of their health systems. Finally, we are encouraged by the determination of both the Director General and the Regional Director in achieving impact at the country level and remain committed to working together with the WHO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I invite Russian Federation to have the floor, followed by Germany and Spain.
Уважаемый господин генеральный директор, уважаемый господин региональный директор и коллеги, пандемия новой коронавирусной инфекции стала беспрецедентным вызовом, объединившим нас для победы над ней. Сегодня рано подводить итоги, пандемия продолжается, и нам нужно координировать свои действия и искать приемлемые для всех решения. Отмечая работу Европейского регионального бюро, необходимо сказать, что своевременно была переориентирована она на борьбу с COVID-19, включая ряд инфраструктурных задач, в том числе лабораторий по противодействию новым вызовам. Сформирован и реестр из наднациональных референс-лабораторий, осуществляющих поддержку национальных лабораторий. Другим важным компонентом стала информационная поддержка стран через запущенную Европейским региональным бюро ВОС интерактивную информационную панель. Страновые миссии ВОС, в которых принимала участие Россия, стали для некоторых стран спасением перед лицом новой коронавирусной инфекции и позволили своевременно выработать подходы к профилактике COVID-19, а также схемы лечения и ухода за пациентами. Необходимо, не сбавляя темпов, продолжать работу. Видим дальнейшую миссию Европейского регионального бюро ВОС в поиске тиражирования лучших национальных практик в борьбе с новой коронавирусной инфекцией, расширение в регионе сети координирующих центров по борьбе с COVID-19 и поддержки стран региона, испытывающих трудности в адаптации системы здравоохранения к борьбе с коронавирусом. Российская Федерация обладает уникальным опытом эффективного реагирования на COVID-19 в части координации ответных мер на всех уровнях власти, проведения мобилизационных мероприятий, выстраивания медицинской помощи в регионах с разной санитарно-эпидемиологической ситуацией, включая оперативной подготовки медицинских кадров. Другим блоком работы может стать активизация сотрудничества стран в применении цифровых технологий в медицине, как это предусмотрено глобальной стратегией ВОС в области цифрового здравоохранения. Россия сделала серьезный рывок вперед по данному направлению за последние несколько лет. Мы внедрили единую информационную систему мониторинга инфекционных болезней, основой которой стал Федеральный регистр пациентов с COVID-19. Создан специальный регистр по льготному лекарственному обеспечению, внедрена система мониторинга движения лекарственных препаратов во всех медицинских фармацевтических организациях от производителя до потребителя. Минздрав России совместно с Московским офисом ВОС по неинфекционным заболеваниям и Европейским региональным бюро ВОС организует конференцию по использованию технологий цифрового здравоохранения и искусственного интеллекта для мониторинга, профилактики неинфекционных заболеваний и борьбы с ними, которая состоится в конце этого года. Приглашаю вас, коллеги, принять в ней самое активное участие. Пристального внимания требует мониторинг санитарно-эпидемиологической ситуации в регионе. Считаем важным обеспечить транспарентность и инклюзивность уже существующих в регионе и вновь создаваемых механизмов сотрудничества в области предотвращения угроз инфекционных заболеваний. Это позволит укрепить взаимодействие наших стран, а также избежать потенциальной политизации этого направления и возможных упреков в адрес ВОС, как это было в случае с COVID-19. Отдельным блоком работы, в том числе на глобальном уровне, должна стать активизация сотрудничества по ускорению признания новейших медицинских разработок, особенно вакцин. Необходимо придерживаться единых подходов к вопросу взаимного признания сертификатов по вакцинации. Это отдельный вопрос. Ключевым параметром для взаимного признания сертификатов должен служить зафиксированный факт вакцинации гражданина. Это поможет избежать потенциальной политизации этого чувствительного для граждан всего мира вопроса. Мы приветствуем отчет, подготовленный Общеевропейской комиссией по устойчивому развитию и здравоохранению, и отмечаем актуальный характер представленных в нем рекомендаций. Вместе с тем необходима дополнительная проработка внесенных комиссией предложений с целью оценки наших возможностей и предотвращения дублирования функций с уже существующими структурами. Также отмечаю высокую эффективность работы Офиса ВОЗ в Российской Федерации. Благодарю вас, коллеги, за внимание.
I now give the floor to Germany, followed by Spain and Switzerland.
Sehr geehrter Herr Generaldirektor, lieber Tedros, sehr geehrter Herr Regionaldirektor, lieber Hans, meine Damen und Herren, die Covid-19-Pandemie bestimmt weiterhin unser Leben und unser aller Arbeit, auch in der WHO. Neben den anhaltenden Sorgen und Herausforderungen gibt es nun aber glücklicherweise auch viel Grund zu Optimismus. Es gibt jetzt Impfstoffe und mehr als je zuvor haben die verschiedenen Expertengremien mögliche Probleme und erforderliche Lösungen für eine bessere globale Pandemievorsorge ermittelt. Jetzt geht es darum, die gezogenen Lehren in die Politik zu übersetzen, national, aber vor allem auch international. Das ist keine leichte Aufgabe, wie wir alle wissen. Deutschland wird seiner Verantwortung nachkommen und bis Jahresende 100 Millionen Impfdosen zur Verfügung stellen. Das ist so viel, wie wir bisher auch in unserem Land selbst verimpft haben. Deutschland ist ein erklärter Befürworter des Multilateralismus, auch gerade im Bereich der globalen Gesundheit, wo wir uns klar committen. Im Oktober 2020 hat die Bundesregierung eine neue globale Gesundheitsstrategie verabschiedet, die bis 2030 laufen wird und all die Ministerien vom Auswärtigen Amt über Entwicklungshilfe, Forschung, Gesundheit zusammenbindet mit ihren Aktivitäten. Mit dieser Strategie will Deutschland zur Umsetzung der Nachhaltigkeitsziele der Vereinten Nationen beitragen. Aufgrund der Covid-19-Pandemie liegt der Schwerpunkt unserer Aufmerksamkeit und unseres Engagements nun sehr verständlicherweise auch auf der Bekämpfung grenzüberschreitender Gesundheitsgefahren. In diesem Zusammenhang möchte ich hier die Eröffnung des WHO Berlin Hubs am 1. September nennen. Der vollständige Name zeigt in aller Kürze, worum es geht. WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence in Berlin. Deutschland ist stolz darauf, Gastgeber und Geldgeber dieses Hubs zu sein. Ich lade alle ein, hieran mitzuwirken. Es ist der erste Hub dieser Art und es müssen weitere folgen für ein gutes Netzwerk rund um die Welt. Es war mir ein Vergnügen, lieber Tedros, Ihnen in Berlin am 1. September nochmals zu begegnen. Ich möchte Ihnen und allen Beschäftigten der Weltgesundheitsorganisation für die harte und gute Arbeit danken, die Sie in diesen schwierigen Zeiten leisten. Es ist immer möglich, Kritik zu üben an der WHO, auch an anderen, die in der Gesundheit Verantwortung tragen. Ich jedenfalls aber bin fest davon überzeugt, dass gerade die WHO auch darauf angewiesen ist, dass wir, die Mitgliedstaaten, dabei in den Spiegel schauen und uns die Frage stellen, was können wir eigentlich für einen Beitrag dazu leisten, dass die Weltgesundheitsorganisation, dass unsere Organisation tatsächlich auch die Erwartungen erfüllen kann, die wir an sie stellen. Die WHO kann nur so stark und leistungsfähig sein, wie wir als Mitgliedstaaten es ihr ermöglichen. Finanziell, aber auch in der Frage von Transparenz und Zusammenarbeit. Deswegen setzt Deutschland sich seit vielen Jahren unter anderem für eine nachhaltige Finanzierung ein und auch für eine verpflichtendere, verbindlichere Zusammenarbeit von Staaten, etwa im Falle eines Ausbruchs. Das war ein Thema schon bei Ebola und ist es nun beim Coronavirus. Daraus sollten wir für die Zukunft miteinander lernen. Mein Dank geht auch an den Regionaldirektor und das gesamte Team. Lieber Hans Kluge, danke für das große Engagement für unsere Region. Diese Woche diskutieren wir unter anderem, wie wir gemeinsam die Lehren der Covid-19-Pandemie und das europäische Arbeitsprogramm 2020 bis 2025 umsetzen können. Ich wünsche jedenfalls einen anregenden Austausch. Alles Gute. Herzlichen Dank.
I've been informed that video statements of Russia Federation and Germany were not visible on Zoom due to technical problems. Until we will fix these technical problems, we will move on with the Republic of Moldova. They are in live intervention, so I'll give the floor to Moldova, and followed by Norway and Sweden.
Director General, Regional Director, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor to present the 71st session of the WHO Regional Committee on behalf of Ministry of Health of the Republic of Moldova. There is no place to doubt the fact that solidarity and hope, combined with tireless work and science, have helped us all in facing the pandemic period. And as Dr. Kluge mentioned, the pandemic will leave profound footprints in our collective memory. In this joint effort, the Republic of Moldova has been fortunate enough to benefit from a valuable support from the international community through governmental aid, donations, voluntary support, expertise of science, and healthcare workers from around all the world. And of course, the country has benefited from the WHO active involvement in the fight against the pandemic. As a member state of WHO, our country has put a lot of efforts in implementation of international health regulations and building of core capacities to improve the preparedness, risk assessment, and response measures. In this context, Republic of Moldova aligns to the EU statement on COVID lessons learned getting ready for next pandemic. The government action plan tracks closely with the core priorities described by RD report and with APW flagships. We aim at moving towards universal health coverage by accepting the people-centered approach, investing in strategic development and strengthening the public health and primary health care, supporting through the development of solid digital health instruments to ensure evidence-based continuous quality improvement in delivering essential health services. A stronger WHO Europe means stronger member states and health system. The Republic of Moldova commends the WHO intentions in supporting health leadership at the country level, especially in this moment of reorganization of the Ministry of Health in Moldova. As Dr. Kluge mentioned in his report, we have much to learn from this moment in history. I would like to say that we do learn, and we are now at the right moment to implement what we have learned, to bring more knowledge and expertise, implement better reforms, and improve the health system in Moldova, where the continuous support from WHO international community will be highly appreciated. Regional Director, colleagues, our country has ambitious goals to strengthen our health service delivery system, improve our population health, and ensure fairness among citizens. Achieving these goals and making them sustainable is a challenging work. Since the Republic of Moldova announced its bid to the WHO Executive Board, our country stands committed to support the global health initiatives and contribute to the implementation, aiming at strengthening the international health security, improving access to health services, promoting intersectoral cooperation, and preventing future epidemics. Thank you.
Thank you. I now give the floor to Norway, followed by Sweden and Uzbekistan.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Director General and Regional Director, I have 4 points. First, Director General and Regional Director, thank you for your organization's leadership in this pandemic. We are grateful to all WHO staff for ensuring that the World Health Organization has been able to meet this challenge. The world needs a strong and effective WHO at the center of international health architecture. Norway puts a strong emphasis on the principle of one WHO, with strong alignment from WHO headquarters through the regions to the country offices. Secondly, while as for any other government, our first priority is to protect our own people, we need international cooperation and solutions at all levels to end this pandemic. Now we must make use of the window of opportunity to secure lasting commitments by all countries to global health preparedness and response. The world expects from us that we are willing to make the investments and changes that are needed to prevent future pandemics. Entering into a legally binding treaty on pandemic preparedness and response would be a strong sign that we are willing to be held accountable for doing so. We also need to increase our efforts for global vaccine access. Right now, the most effective way to ensure this goal is by enabling donations and reallocations from bilateral agreements. Third, for Norway, knowledge on effective public health measures to implement during an outbreak is key. That is why Norway has established a Center for Epidemic Interventions Research, which aims to expand our knowledge of non-pharmaceutical public health interventions for current and future epidemics. Part of the Center's mandate is to support the World Health Organization in its recently launched effort to strengthen the evidence for public health and social measures in pandemics. The world needs a common toolbox of evidence-based and effective non-pharmaceutical public health interventions. We hope this center can contribute to building such a toolbox. And lastly, we cannot achieve this without a sustainably financed World Health Organization. Norway believes a substantial increase in assessed contributions is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you. Before moving on with the live intervention of Norway, I'm informed that the technical problem with the pre-recorded video intervention is fixed. So we are going to go back to Russia and Germany video statements. Please, the floor is yours.
Уважаемый господин генеральный директор, уважаемый господин региональный директор и коллеги, пандемия новой коронавирусной инфекции стала беспрецедентным вызовом, объединившим нас для победы над ней. Сегодня рано подводить итоги, пандемия продолжается, и нам нужно координировать свои действия и искать приемлемые для всех решения. Отмечая работу Европейского регионального бюро, необходимо сказать, что своевременно была переориентирована она на борьбу с COVID-19, включая ряд инфраструктурных задач, в том числе лабораторий по противодействию новым вызовам. Сформирован и реестр из наднациональных референс-лабораторий, осуществляющих поддержку национальных лабораторий. Другим важным компонентом стала информационная поддержка стран через запущенную Европейским региональным бюро ВОЗ интерактивную информационную панель. Страновые миссии ВОЗ, в которых принимала участие Россия, стали для некоторых стран спасением перед лицом новой коронавирусной инфекции и позволили своевременно выработать подходы к профилактике COVID-19, а также схемы лечения и ухода за пациентами. Необходимо, не сбавляя темпов, продолжать работу. Видим дальнейшую миссию Европейского регионального бюро ВОЗ в поиске тиражирования лучших национальных практик в борьбе с новой коронавирусной инфекцией, расширение в регионе сети координирующих центров по борьбе с COVID-19 и поддержки стран региона, испытывающих трудности в адаптации системы здравоохранения к борьбе с коронавирусом. Российская Федерация обладает уникальным опытом эффективного реагирования на COVID-19 в части координации ответных мер на всех уровнях власти, проведения мобилизационных мероприятий, выстраивания медицинской помощи в регионах с разной санитарно-эпидемиологической ситуацией, включая оперативной подготовки медицинских кадров. Другим блоком работы может стать активизация сотрудничества стран в применении цифровых технологий в медицине, как это предусмотрено глобальной стратегией ВОЗ в области цифрового здравоохранения. Россия сделала серьезный рывок вперед по данному направлению за последние несколько лет. Мы внедрили единую информационную систему мониторинга инфекционных болезней, основой которой стал Федеральный регистр пациентов с COVID-19. Создан специальный регистр по льготному лекарственному обеспечению, внедрена система мониторинга движения лекарственных препаратов во всех медицинских фармацевтических организациях от производителя до потребителя. Минздрав России совместно с Московским офисом ВОЗ по неинфекционным заболеваниям и Европейским региональным бюро ВОЗ организует конференцию по использованию технологий цифрового здравоохранения и искусственного интеллекта для мониторинга, профилактики неинфекционных заболеваний и борьбы с ними, которая состоится в конце этого года. Приглашаю вас, коллеги, принять в ней самое активное участие. Пристального внимания требует мониторинг санитарно-эпидемиологической ситуации в регионе. Считаем важным обеспечить транспарентность и инклюзивность уже существующих в регионе и вновь создаваемых механизмов сотрудничества в области предотвращения угроз инфекционных заболеваний. Это позволит укрепить взаимодействие наших стран, а также избежать потенциальной политизации этого направления и возможных упреков в адрес ВОЗ, как это было в случае с COVID-19. Отдельным блоком работы, в том числе на глобальном уровне, должна стать активизация сотрудничества по ускорению признания новейших медицинских разработок, особенно вакцин. Необходимо придерживаться единых подходов к вопросу взаимного признания сертификатов по вакцинации. Это отдельный вопрос. Ключевым параметром для взаимного признания сертификатов должен служить зафиксированный факт вакцинации гражданина. Это поможет избежать потенциальной политизации этого чувствительного для граждан всего мира вопроса. Мы приветствуем отчет, подготовленный Общеевропейской комиссией по устойчивому развитию и здравоохранению, и отмечаем актуальный характер представленных в нем рекомендаций. Вместе с тем необходима дополнительная проработка внесенных комиссией предложений с целью оценки наших возможностей и предотвращения дублирования функций с уже существующими структурами. Также отмечаю высокую эффективность работы Офиса ВОЗ в Российской Федерации. Благодарю вас, коллеги, за внимание.
The video statement of Germany is ready, I'm informed. So long the video.
Sehr geehrter Herr Generaldirektor, lieber Tedros, sehr geehrter Herr Regionaldirektor, lieber Hans, meine Damen und Herren, die Covid-19-Pandemie bestimmt weiterhin unser Leben und unser aller Arbeit, auch in der WHO. Neben den anhaltenden Sorgen und Herausforderungen gibt es nun aber glücklicherweise auch viel Grund zu Optimismus. Es gibt jetzt Impfstoffe und mehr als je zuvor haben die verschiedenen Expertengremien mögliche Probleme und erforderliche Lösungen für eine bessere globale Pandemievorsorge ermittelt. Jetzt geht es darum, die gezogenen Lehren in die Politik zu übersetzen, national, aber vor allem auch international. Das ist keine leichte Aufgabe, wie wir alle wissen. Deutschland wird seiner Verantwortung nachkommen und bis Jahresende 100 Millionen Impfdosen zur Verfügung stellen. Das ist so viel, wie wir bisher auch in unserem Land selbst verimpft haben. Deutschland ist ein erklärter Befürworter des Multilateralismus, auch gerade im Bereich der globalen Gesundheit, wo wir uns klar committen. Im Oktober 2020 hat die Bundesregierung eine neue globale Gesundheitsstrategie verabschiedet, die bis 2030 laufen wird und all die Ministerien vom Auswärtigen Amt über Entwicklungshilfe, Forschung, Gesundheit zusammenbindet mit ihren Aktivitäten. Mit dieser Strategie will Deutschland zur Umsetzung der Nachhaltigkeitsziele der Vereinten Nationen beitragen. Aufgrund der Covid-19-Pandemie liegt der Schwerpunkt unserer Aufmerksamkeit und unseres Engagements nun sehr verständlicherweise auch auf der Bekämpfung grenzüberschreitender Gesundheitsgefahren. In diesem Zusammenhang möchte ich hier die Eröffnung des WHO Berlin Hubs am 1. September nennen. Der vollständige Name zeigt in aller Kürze, worum es geht. WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence in Berlin. Deutschland ist stolz darauf, Gastgeber und Geldgeber dieses Hubs zu sein. Ich lade alle ein, hieran mitzuwirken. Es ist der erste Hub dieser Art und es müssen weitere folgen für ein gutes Netzwerk rund um die Welt. Es war mir ein Vergnügen, lieber Tedros, Ihnen in Berlin am 1. September nochmals zu begegnen. Ich möchte Ihnen und allen Beschäftigten der Weltgesundheitsorganisation für die harte und gute Arbeit danken, die Sie in diesen schwierigen Zeiten leisten. Es ist immer möglich, Kritik zu üben an der WHO, auch an anderen, die in der Gesundheit Verantwortung tragen. Ich jedenfalls aber bin fest davon überzeugt, dass gerade die WHO auch darauf angewiesen ist, dass wir, die Mitgliedstaaten, dabei in den Spiegel schauen und uns die Frage stellen, was können wir eigentlich für einen Beitrag dazu leisten, dass die Weltgesundheitsorganisation, dass unsere Organisation tatsächlich auch die Erwartungen erfüllen kann, die wir an sie stellen. Die WHO kann nur so stark und leistungsfähig sein, wie wir als Mitgliedstaaten es ihr ermöglichen. Finanziell, aber auch in der Frage von Transparenz und Zusammenarbeit. Deswegen setzt Deutschland sich seit vielen Jahren unter anderem für eine nachhaltige Finanzierung ein und auch für eine verpflichtendere, verbindlichere Zusammenarbeit von Staaten, etwa im Falle eines Ausbruchs. Das war ein Thema schon bei Ebola und ist es nun beim Coronavirus. Daraus sollten wir für die Zukunft miteinander lernen. Mein Dank geht auch an den Regionaldirektor und das gesamte Team. Lieber Hans Kluge, danke für das große Engagement für unsere Region. Diese Woche diskutieren wir unter anderem, wie wir gemeinsam die Lehren der Covid-19-Pandemie und das europäische Arbeitsprogramm 2020 bis 2025 umsetzen können. Ich wünsche jedenfalls einen anregenden Austausch. Alles, alles Gute. Herzlichen Dank.
We move on. I now give the floor to Norway, followed by Sweden and Uzbekistan. Norway, you have? Okay, let's move on. Sweden? Yeah, Sweden.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, that's fine.
Please, Sweden, yes. Sweden can take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Sweden aligns itself with the statement made by Slovenia on behalf of the EU and its member states. These are extraordinary times for all of us. The pandemic has been long and difficult, and it has affected the most vulnerable people the most. There has never been a greater need for health equity and sustainable finance to build back better. Dr. Tedros, we appreciate your unwavering guidance and clear messages on health equity. Your leadership has been crucial to operationalize the efforts to achieve health for all and to ensure universal health coverage. Even though it is challenging, you and your staff remain steadfast in carrying out the work that needs to be done. We, like you, wish to see a more equitable response where everyone has access to the health services they need. That is why we are a strong supporter of the ACT accelerator, including the COVAX facility, which are key to ending this pandemic. Vaccination has a huge impact on countries' ability to manage and contain the pandemic. It is in our own interest to contribute to more equitable global access to the vaccine, ensuring an end to the pandemic everywhere. Sweden will continue to deliver millions of doses via COVAX in the coming weeks and months. We would also like to extend our support and appreciation for the work you do, Dr. Kluge. It is certainly true that health can never be taken for granted, and the strength of our health systems depends on how resilient they are. Your first year as regional director has proven the need to remain resilient, to say the least. We support you in your endeavor to create a stronger and healthier European Union with clear strategic goals to guide us to achieve better health security, digitalization, stronger primary care systems, and a more resilient health workforce. Finally, we look to you not only to ensure that our region remains a strong voice on universal health coverage, but also remains a strong voice to ensure sexual and reproductive health and rights for all. The basic human rights to health, to access care, and to have our bodily autonomy respected is challenged in many parts of the world. Health in our policies is not yet a catchphrase. It is a joint goal at the heart of the Sustainable Development Goals. We look forward to continuing working towards it with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to Uzbekistan, followed by Greece and Spain. Uzbekistan is on Zoom. We can move on with Greece. until we'll have Uzbekistan here. Greece is on Zoom. Yes. Thank you. The floor is yours. We are all here waiting for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear ministers, dear Director General, dear Regional Director, Dr. Hans Kluge, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to address you all today at this session of the WHO Regional Committee for Europe. I was appointed by our Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis just a few days ago, and I'm truly delighted that this is my first international participation. This is a very special for me, so thank you, Dr. Kluge, for the invitation. This regional committee came at a very important time for the health of Greeks and Europeans. We have been fighting and working very hard to protect our citizens from COVID and all other health threats. Let me start by expressing to the regional director our gratitude for all the support provided to Greece ranking from the very difficult times of the economic crisis of 2009 to the most recent brave reforms of primary health care our country has embarked. I would like to declare Greece's support to the vision and strategy direction of WHO Europe. In the very difficult battle against the COVID, primary health care is at front line with all its structures and staff, lifts the heaviest weight for vaccines, examines the patients, and takes samples from COVID control while managing chronic diseases. The national vaccination coverage plan Eleftheria is the largest project ever carried out in our country, and primary health care plays a leading role. The reform of primary health care is a top priority for the Greek government, with the full support and cooperation of WHO. Thanks to the great effort of the WHO Director for Europe, Dr. Hans Kluge, we are grateful for you for your contribution, including the provision of technical support. The reform of the health sector will be based on primary health care and the achievement of the COVID pandemic effort. Our goal is to provide universal health coverage and access for all citizens to quality healthcare services. This reform will reorganize primary care services and lead to a new system of high-quality services with the cooperation of the public and private sectors. Because quality of care has to be one of our drivers, I'm extremely happy with our government's decision in partnership with WHO to open the first sub-regional WHO Center of Excellence on Quality of Care and Patient Safety in the form of the Athens Quality of Care Office just some months ago. This is a great honor for us. We're very pleased that WHO and Dr. Kluge are by our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I give the floor to Spain, followed by Switzerland and Malta. The video statements are ready. Yes. From Spain, yes. If the recorded video, of Spain isn't ready, we move on with Switzerland.
Sehr geehrter Generaldirektor, sehr geehrter Regionaldirektor, sehr geehrte Minister und Ministerinnen, sehr geehrte Delegierte. Es ist mir eine große Freude, mich heute an Sie wenden zu dürfen. Die anhaltende Covid-Krise ist längst weit mehr als eine Gesundheitskrise und fordert uns alle weiterhin. In diesen beispiellosen Zeiten ist die internationale Zusammenarbeit der Schlüssel in der Krisenbewältigung. Denn wenn wir etwas aus der aktuellen Krise gelernt haben, dann, dass wir den Multilateralismus, die internationale Solidarität und eine starke WHO brauchen. Die WHO muss eine Organisation sein, welche den Erwartungen, die man an sie stellt, gerecht werden kann. Dafür muss diese mit genügend Ressourcen und Autorität ausgestattet sein. Die nachhaltige Finanzierung der Organisation ist hierbei von oberster Priorität. Insbesondere auch, um die tragende Funktion der WHO als führende und koordinierende Instanz in Gesundheitskrisen sicherzustellen. Gleichzeitig muss die nachhaltige Finanzierung auch mit den notwendigen Reformen der Organisation bezüglich der Governanz sowie Leistung und Transparenz einhergehen. In diesem Sinne begrüßt die Schweiz die aus den Evaluationsgremien vorliegenden Vorschläge. Die Resolution zur nachhaltigen Finanzierung, welche in der Arbeitsgruppe des SCRCs erarbeitet worden ist, liegt nun dem Regionalkomitee vor. Die Schweiz ist überzeugt, dass unsere Region durch die Annahme dieser Resolution auch auf globaler Ebene ein wichtiges Zeichen setzen wird. Für die WHO sowie ihre Rolle in der zukünftigen Pandemievorbereitung und Bewältigung sind Reformen im Bereich der Finanzierung und der Governanz unumgänglich. Aus Sicht der Schweiz sollten diese Reformen, wenn immer möglich, in den bestehenden Institutionen stattfinden. Nur so ist die notwendige Universalität und Legitimität garantiert. Dies ist eine wichtige Voraussetzung für das gegenseitige Vertrauen und die zukünftige Zusammenarbeit in einem multilateralen System des globalen Gesundheitsschutzes. Für die zukünftige Pandemievorbereitung und Bewältigung braucht es jedoch nicht nur Reformen auf globaler Ebene. Es braucht vor allem starke und inklusive Gesundheitssysteme. Die internationalen Gesundheitsvorschriften und ein One Health-Ansatz müssen auf nationaler Ebene konsequent umgesetzt werden. Auch dafür soll eine nachhaltige Finanzierung sichergestellt sein. Die Schweiz wird nach der Tagung des Regionalkomitees die verantwortungsvolle Rolle des Vorsitzes im SCRC übernehmen. Gemeinsam mit den anderen Mitgliedern werden wir uns dafür einsetzen, die Arbeiten in den Bereichen der nachhaltigen Finanzierung, der Governanz und der Präsenz der WHO in den Ländern weiter voranzutreiben. Wir werden uns dafür engagieren, dass unsere Region auch auf globaler Ebene Gehör findet. Weitere prioritäre Themen der Schweiz wie die Patientensicherheit, die universelle Gesundheitsversorgung in Gesundheitskrisen und zum Schutz vulnerabler und marginalisierter Gruppen werden wir thematisieren. Dazu gehört unter anderem die Global Health and Peace Initiative, welche im Exekutivrat im Januar traktandiert ist. Zum Schluss freut es mich, Sie im Namen des Co-Organisationen Finnland, des WHO-Regionalbüros und der Schweiz zu einem Side-Event zur Gesundheit von Menschen in Haft einzuladen. Dieser findet statt am kommenden Freitag von 16 Uhr bis 17:30 Uhr. Ich danke Ihnen, Herr Regionaldirektor, und Ihrem gesamten Team für den herausragenden Einsatz in dieser Krise und sichere Ihnen unsere anhaltende Unterstützung zu. Besten Dank.
Thank you. We move on with the Malta statement, followed by Ireland and Ukraine.
Director General, Regional Director, colleagues, good day. As much as we would like it to be over, the truth is that the COVID pandemic is still very much alive, globally and even in Europe. And what we have learned over these last 20 months is that we have been, all of us, caught unprepared. It is therefore essential that on a global level, any future pandemics find us well prepared. And as a regional committee, I would suggest the strongest regional committee of the World Health Organization, the European region has a leading role to play for future preparedness for any future pandemic. But even as we deal with the pandemic today, it is essential that we realize that dealing with the pandemic is not just dealing with COVID patients, but we also need to make sure that the whole healthcare services that we provide remain current and remain up to scratch. And looking back, there is a possibility we could have done things slightly better to avoid fallback in a number of situations and the number of healthcare services that we now need to make sure catch up over what has happened during the last year or so. And as we do this, we need to be extremely careful to keep the rest of our colleagues in government aware that even as the whole communities, whole countries feel the pinch of the economic downturn, which for sure COVID has brought all over the world, healthcare needs to remain well funded and needs to remain a priority. We need to keep pushing the message that a healthy economy cannot exist without a healthy population. The pandemic has also shown us that when we work together, things can improve. The fact that within the European Union, we managed to negotiate together, and procure together the vaccine for all the member states within the European Union shows that joint procurement works. And Malta is very glad to see that during the course of this regional committee, we will be discussing the work by the Oslo Medicines Initiative, which, as you are aware, Malta strongly supports. Finally, I would like to bring onto the agenda very forcefully the other epidemic that we are all facing, which is the result of antimicrobial resistance. I commend Dr. Tedros for, together with the FAO and with the World Organization for Animal Rights, having set up the Global Leaders Group to advise on antimicrobial resistance. We need to push this onto the world agenda. AMR needs to capture public attention, maybe not to the same extent as COVID, but certainly close to that. Until that happens, we will face the problem, face the risk of not only having been unprepared for COVID, but also now being unprepared for AMR. There is a very short window of opportunity during which we can act. Colleagues, once again, thank you very much for being here together, and I wish you the best for the rest of this regional committee.
Thank you, and I now give the floor to Ireland, and then we will have a short break.
Honourable Chair, distinguished Director General and Regional Director, distinguished delegates. Ireland fully aligns itself with the statement delivered by Slovenia on behalf of the EU and its member states. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have faced a global health challenge unlike anything seen before. Ireland strongly supports the WHO and believes that the UN system must be central to our global response to COVID-19 and indeed to future global health challenges. We've learned from this pandemic that multilateral cooperation is key to addressing this crisis and that the WHO plays a central leadership role in this response. We look forward to building on the existing cooperation among member states arising from this pandemic. We welcome the ongoing discussions on strengthening the WHO's pandemic preparedness and response in advance of the special session of the World Health Assembly in November. The discussion at this year's regional committee meeting on realising the potential of primary care is very welcome. The strengthening of primary care is a key principle of Ireland's National Health Reform Plan as we move towards universal healthcare. Ireland supports Immunisation Agenda 2030, and we will continue to work with colleagues across Europe and globally to realise its aims. Ireland will continue to act in solidarity with countries around the world. We've supported partners globally, including by providing life-saving medical supplies and equipment to countries who've requested assistance through the EU Civil Protection Mechanism. Ireland will invest over €100 million in global health in 2021, including to the COVAX facility and the WHO. As I noted in my statement to the World Health Assembly, Ireland wishes to recognise the special contribution of all frontline healthcare workers and the critical role they play in our pandemic response. In the International Year of Health and Care Workers, we call for the respect and protection of all frontline medical and humanitarian personnel. Ireland will continue to prioritise the strengthening of our health system's resilience as we look to emerge from this pandemic. And we will continue to work with our international community and our colleagues in the euro area to recover from this crisis as soon and as safely as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let us now continue with the pre-established speakers list according to discussions of the RD and regional director. So I invite Spain to take the floor, followed by Ukraine and Belgium.
Dear Director General, Regional Director, Member States, it's a pleasure for me to participate in this important meeting, and even that underline the leadership of WHO on global and European health policy. Spain has always stood for the main role of WHO on the multilateral response to this crisis. This is why we have support and will continue to support the mandate for both Director Tedros and Kluge. Now it's time to keep our working together, supporting the leadership of WHO in all its fields, especially when it comes to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, ensuring a healthy life and promoting welfare all across the planet. Spain will be alongside with WHO and the Regional Committee for that purpose. Dear colleagues, when the pandemic started, we didn't have any roadmap. After a year and a half dealing with the virus, we have learned some lessons. I would like to highlight two of them. First, global health emergencies need extraordinary global response. Second, no country and no region will be safe until everybody is safe. That's why Spain is paying attention to open discussion within the working group on strengthening WHO, preparing a response to health emergency. When it comes to the second lesson learned I mentioned, I think it's important for us to reflect. There are countries in the European region and that are leading the global vaccination, such as Spain, but there are many regions and countries where the immunization rates are extremely low. We are committed to diminish the cleavage between the global north and the global south. Spain is delivering. Our President, Pedro Sánchez, announced some months ago our commitment to donate more than 22 million vaccines during 2021. And we have already delivered more than 6 million doses to COVAX, doses that are already arriving to Latin America. I would like to finish my words by expressing how proud I feel about Spanish candidacy for the Standing Committee. Spain wants to make a stronger contribution to the WHO Euro governance, and I am sure Dr. Amos Garcia Rojas could do it greater, because we want to promote multilateralism and we stand for public health in Europe and all over the world, because we are stronger together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now Ukraine will have the floor, followed by Belgium and Republic of San Marino.
Шановний генеральний директоре Всесвітньої організації охорони здоров'я. Шановний
General and Regional Director of the World Health Organization. Your Excellencies and dear colleagues. It's a great pleasure for me to have an opportunity to join the 71st session of the WHO's Regional Committee for Europe. Ukraine has always been and will be a supporter and a partner of the WHO policies aimed to protect and promote equitable access to healthcare. It is difficult to overestimate the role of the WHO in coordinating the efforts to combat COVID-19 pandemic. From an early beginning, our response to COVID-19 pandemic has been developed and implemented in line with the WHO recommendations. The WHO guidelines have formed the basis of national policies for the deployment of anti-epidemic measures and healthcare standards. During the fight against COVID-19, we managed to significantly increase the capacity of our surveillance system and laboratory system, develop new sanitary and epidemiological standards in all medical institutions. And most importantly, Ukraine is running successfully the vaccination campaign by increasing the percentage of vaccinated citizens in the country and adhering to the strategy of the global and European regional vaccination plans, making them the basis of the national immunization development strategy. I am confident that our problems, challenges, and lessons learned resonate with the delegations of many countries. New virus requires new measures, including constant monitoring, development of a surveillance system, and continuous training of medical personnel. In addition, I cannot but emphasize many challenges that Ukraine is facing nowadays, including the illegal annexation of the Crimean Peninsula and ongoing armed aggression from the Russian Federation in the eastern Ukraine. This has negative economic, social, and most importantly, tangible consequences for health. Nonetheless, we continue to build up our healthcare reform at all levels, and it remains a high priority for the ministry. Currently, my task as the minister to unite everyone on the development of the health development strategy until 2030, with emphasis on the universal access to public healthcare in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals with WHO principles. I would like to ensure you that our current House Development Strategy 2030 will build upon international best practices and will fully comply and will prove once again that Ukraine is a valuable representative of the world's community and a supporter of WHO's ideology and principles. In conclusion, I would just like to express my special gratitude for selection of Ukraine as a priority country for the WHO Special Initiative for Mental Health for 2019 to 2023. A joint draft of mental health action plan has already been developed with the teams of the WHO country office in Ukraine and Ukrainian Swiss project Mental Health for Ukraine. We are actively cooperating in the field of training of our medical workers, in particular primary care physician, on the issue of early diagnosis and mental health disorders. I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to the WHO Regional Office for Europe, Dr. Hans Kluge, for his steadfast support and cooperation in many areas, including the fight against COVID-19 and good access to vaccines. Ukraine will continue to fully support the WHO in its activities as we are and will be a part of the international team, because only together we can defeat COVID-19, improve health, and move closer to sustainable development goals for health and well-being. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. And now Belgium will take the floor, followed by Republic of San Marino and Poland.
Dear Director General, Regional Director, dear colleagues, Belgium fully aligns itself to the statement made by Slovenia on behalf of the EU and its member states. Firstly, I would like to thank the entire WHO staff and especially both your Director General and your Regional Director for your unwavering support during the COVID-19 crisis. The most pressing challenge we face today, undoubtedly, is to vaccinate all our populations all over the world. Epidemiological models foresee a fourth wave of COVID-19 infections in the next few months, meaning a possibly significant new wave of hospitalizations, mainly among the non-vaccinated. And it's evident that we have to continue to work on reducing vaccine hesitancy and drastically improve access to vaccines. If we fail to do so, the human and social cost will once again be enormous. And therefore, medical countermeasures during a pandemic, like COVID vaccines, should be a kind of global public good. This is simply in the interest of us all. And international cooperation and solidarity will be paramount to achieve this. My country is committed to international solidarity. We have provided COVAX with financial resources and at least 4 million vaccines this year. With regard to the booster shots, we are strictly following an evidence-based approach. And this means that we are limiting the use of a booster at this stage in a very well-targeted way to only those vulnerable populations for which there is clear scientific evidence today. And we call on other countries to follow the same approach. Finally, as part of Team Europe, Belgium is directly contributing to the increase of production capacity for health products in the African region. A pandemic treaty should be serious on international solidarity as well. It should guarantee that in the future we will not be confronted again with the unacceptable inequities in access to medical countermeasures, including vaccines. Based on our engagement in the Oslo Medicines Initiative on pharmaceutical pricing, we are ready to play an active role in order to find ways to structurally address this issue. Dear colleagues, we need to prepare for the next pandemic. We cannot wait until the current crisis is under control to do that. We believe that together we can achieve more. And that is why we believe in strengthened and intensified cooperation between the EU and WHO Europe. And that is why Belgium is actively engaged as a chair in the subgroup on the WHO's work at the country level. Indeed, we are convinced that all countries can benefit from WHO support, rich and poor countries alike, all countries, independent from their income level. And with this in mind, I'm happy to let you know that our updated country cooperation strategy provides for further intensified cooperation between WHO Euro and Belgium. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now Republic of San Marino will take the floor, followed by Poland and United Kingdom.
Dear Regional Director, Excellencies, distinguished delegate, colleagues, I take this opportunity to point out how much COVID-19 is showing over time the unpreparedness of Western countries in containing a pandemic. As is well known, San Marino carried out a profitable vaccination campaign exceeding 77% of vaccinated people in a few weeks, with great efforts and thanks also to the Sputnik vaccine, necessary to cope with delays of more than 2 months in the delivery of vaccines approved by EMA. We did not know that regarding COVID in Europe, we will be faced with Series A and Series B vaccines. We could not imagine that it will be the brand of the vaccine, not its effectiveness, that will determine freedom of movement. Who among you has ever made distinction about the brand of the flu vaccine? Why, in this case, does all this happen? In this way, Europe punished those who have been vaccinated with the wrong vaccine and pushes ever larger section of the population not to get vaccinated. The citizen of San Marino, immunized, vaccinated en masse in a country that for over 6 months has not recorded deaths or hospitalization in ECU, are compared to not vaccinated people outside our borders. The WHO has a duty to remedy this dynamic that punishes poor countries which will not be able to afford the costs of vaccination campaigns based on increasingly expensive vaccine, and those have been forced to access to the market to overcome delays in European countries. Austria has established that for the purpose of entry into their country, certification of possession of antibodies against COVID is equivalent to a certificate of recovery. San Marino has done the same since last May. As I have already argued for at least 6 months, even in the meeting of the WHO, this is the most correct and democratic way to pursue, because science cannot be bent to economic interests, and antibodies obtained with Pfizer, with Sputnik, or with a contagion make no distinction and are perhaps the only criterion that can guarantee coverage. Because we know that there are many vaccinated people who do not develop antibodies. I ask the European Union, whose values we also refer to in the context of association negotiation, to evaluate my suggestion, and that in the next WHO World Meeting we will consider and vote on a resolution on the Green Pass and free movement that also includes the certification of possession of antibodies, and that this certification can be considered equivalent to a certificate of recovery. I conclude with a question. What will happen if the individual states decided that vaccinated subjects or those presenting antibodies should be considered recovered? In conclusion, while expressing this wish and hoping that many countries will share this position, I wish to renew my thanks to Dr. Kluge, WHO and WHO Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And I invite Poland to take the floor, followed by UK and Slovakia.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Director General Dr. Tedros, Regional Director Dr. Kluge, colleagues. Poland fully aligns itself with the statement delivered by Slovenia on behalf of the EU and its member states. To start with, I would like to express our appreciation for WHO's tireless efforts in combating COVID-19 pandemic, both at global and regional levels. Global solidarity in the fight against COVID-19 is the key to ending the pandemic and keeping the healthcare systems resilient. We are strong only together and united in actions. Current crisis is not over yet. We have vaccines, but we still need to develop efficient therapy. Vaccination programs started in most, if not all, countries of the region, yet the access to vaccines is far from being equitable. Poland has already managed to share vaccines allocated to us with countries in the region, but also beyond it. We will continue to take part in this joint redistribution effort, which is a shared responsibility of all of us. Pandemic is ongoing, yet there are also other areas we must take care of. That is why Poland welcomes with full appreciation the Mental Health Coalition. Poland's current actions in this field aim at community-based mental health services through our mental health centers. Additionally, soon we are launching a pilot program directed to children and adolescents addicted to digital technologies. I would also like to voice our full support for European Immunization Agenda 2030. Mass vaccination programs are one of the most effective tools in the fight against communicable diseases and in providing universal health coverage. Nevertheless, anti-vaccination movements keep growing stronger and have more and more followers. That is why it is also important to educate people to fight misinformation and epidemic. In this context, I would like to cordially thank Dr. Kluge and his team for organizing a successful workshop on this subject for Polish experts in the end of August. Colleagues, let me conclude with a personal remark. Health is and should continue to be the most important area of public policy and public intervention. Looking back, I can see how much has been achieved. Looking ahead, I can see the challenges that are coming. As this is the last regional committee for me, I would like to thank you for your cooperation and support. It has been a great pleasure and an honor for me to work with you all for the last 10 years. I am sure that the WHO leadership in health at regional level will bring success to future endeavors of all countries of our region. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Now I invite UK to take the floor.
Thank you, Dr. Tedros and Dr. Klug, for your personal leadership. As we continue to deal with the pandemic, we must also focus on how we build stronger systems to protect against future pandemics, and we therefore welcome the focus of our agenda. Non-communicable diseases remain a significant global threat, and evidence shows that people living with obesity are at greater risk from COVID-19. By taking action to help reduce sugar and calories in food, we will also help address rising rates of obesity and its related diseases, but also increase our resilience to COVID-19. The UK has been working with WHO and is pleased to announce the launch of the WHO Europe Sugar and Calorie Reduction Network in spring 2022. This will facilitate the development of coherent policies and programmes to promote sugar and calorie reduction across the region. We will share our lessons in domestic sugar and calorie reduction and work with our international neighbours and the food and drink industry to make their products healthier, considering government action where necessary. Together, we can make a stronger case for multinational companies operating across our region to act faster. Turning now to communicable diseases, during our second virtual regional committee, it is clear we must continue to work closely with WHO and collaborate as member states, sharing best practice, scientific research and data. But it is also clear that the status quo is not an option. Preventing and responding to future health emergencies requires a commitment to do things differently. The UK therefore believes that a legally binding treaty is essential to achieve real change in the way member states and international organisations prepare, prevent and respond to pandemics and other health threats. A treaty will complement the existing tools and systems we rely on, including the international health regulations, whilst enabling new mechanisms, including stronger surveillance, a fully One Health approach, and outbreak investigation models. We think it is crucial to use the current momentum to get agreement on the need for a treaty at the upcoming World Health Assembly special session in November. It is important we consider its development as part of the broader reform conversation. We need to continue to progress on other important health, governance and financing questions in parallel. Thank you.
Thank you, and now I invite Slovakia to take the floor.
Honorable Director General, distinguished Regional Director, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, Slovakia would like to thank the Secretariat for the report on COVID-19 lessons learned in the European region. Nowadays, we observe a general acknowledgement of the fact that the pandemic has changed our lives beyond recognition. It has also shown us that efficient tools for countering the pandemic as well as coherent actions were lacking. In order to emerge stronger from this public health crisis, the implementation of international health regulation should be firmly followed. We cannot, however, ignore the need for its fine-tuning in terms of narrowing the scope for its vague interpretation, which should be appropriately reflected in the negotiations on the future pandemic instrument. Moreover, we should be vigilant enough not to create parallel structures while remaining as consistent as possible in shaping this instrument. After having been confronted with uncertainty such dimensions today, nobody can pretend that we can achieve security in isolation, nor to rely exclusively on the probabilities generated by statistical models. This is why each actor should remain committed to contribute and participate in the groundwork for the global cooperation. The pandemic has also exposed as a strong demand for new narratives and reformed institutions. In view of this necessity, Slovakia has proposed the initiative on more transparent, inclusive and predictable WHO governance with the aim of sculpting a more comprehensive community as a pillar of international health architecture. In this sense, Slovakia would like to extend its gratitude to Regional Director and his team and various other countries for the support of this initiative. Timely actions in the field of avoiding the spread of the disease require not only swift information exchanges, but also a quality information system closely interlinked with the efficient data sharing. It is equally important not to disregard the burning matters, such as the non-communicable diseases, nor the impact of the pandemic on mental health. In spite of this critical meltdown in the sphere of public health, I remain positive that these challenges has taught as a lessons from which we have much to learn, even more to gain. It is an opportunity for the rethinking current function of health system in order to achieve a more resilient societies. Thank you.
Thank you. Although we still have a number of interventions to go from member states, but also from international partners and non-state actors,